loves, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another Artsy Tuesday art project video. I don't even know. So this is the entire process of my first painting of winter semester. It's called Action and Reaction, or like that's the prompt that we were given. So pretty much you start with a painting, just any painting you want, any canvas, any size, whatever. And throughout the next 3 weeks, every week we were given a different restriction. And we had to continue our painting using that restriction. So I took an old canvas. This was a painting from last semester that I don't even know. I hated this painting, but I also liked it. It was very confusing. And I decided just to paint over it. I paint over like all my paintings once I'm done with them. So I did that, just a basic red pink base, because I used gesso, I used gouache on the under painting, and I had to do a layer of gesso in order to cover that. And then just using primary colors and a basic outline, I just did a landscape. So this was actually a landscape based off a collage photo that I did a few weeks ago, maybe like a month before this, that I was planning on using for a painting anyways, and I figured, hey, this is the perfect place to do it because I have no idea what else to do. I decided to stick with very vibrant primary colors because I knew I would be going over it again with a restriction, and the restriction could be anything from only use dark colors, only use red, or switch up your medium to something else. So I wanted to make sure I had a nice base where I could work from it without going too into detail. So I did that, some nice vibrant blues and yellows and greens and whatever. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't you just love my little setup there? I don't know why my light's in the corner, but I pretty much just tack like my painting sheet to the wall and then use that as my little studio space whenever I don't feel like going down to the building studio. Honestly, I kind of like this painting. I should do paintings where like this is the main idea, because I absolutely love bright, vibrant, like primary, secondary colors. I just never have the opportunity to actually like use those colors during class paintings, just because of how the prompts are laid out. We don't really get that much control over it. So our first restriction was to reverse the colors. I took the photo reference that I originally had, where the top of the road was meant to be like a sunset orangey color, and the bottom of the road was meant to be like a dark nighttime color. So I just switched those so that the orangey color road was at the bottom. It ended up looking a little bit more like a dirt road. And then I flipped the canvas and I did a darker blue road at the top, which ended up being way darker than I expected it to be. It was supposed to be like a navy type color and ended up just being an almost black blue. But I thought it looked pretty cool, so I just kind of went with it. The idea changes so much after the next restriction anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I did this. I tried adding a little bit of texture. It didn't really come through just because of how dark it was. And then I flipped it back over to continue working, and I was supposed to have like a blue sky reflected in a puddle, but I decided to turn it into a sunset, which ended up just turning into a yellow blob. So I had to go over it again a few days later to recreate the sunset. Or sunrise. I honestly don't know if it was a sunset or sunrise. But yeah, I really struggled trying to get it to look like that, and it ended up just being like a weird yellowy, orange, whatever blob. And also, it's starting to look like the side of a mountain right now. But yeah, I ended up going over it so many times. This was honestly such a process. I eventually jumped over to doing the mountains just in a dark blue as like a base. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know what I was doing then, and I don't know what I was doing now. But then I finally decided just to tape off so I could do the sunset properly, because normally when I paint a sky, I have the entire canvas, not just a tiny little space. So I felt like that was what was making it difficult to make the sunset. So once I finished the sunset, sunrise, whatever it was, I ended up going over that dirt road because I didn't like the cracks that the tape left around the sunset between the road. So I went over that in like a dark brown with the intention of fixing it later. But then we got our new restriction, which was to tape things off. We actually had an option for this. There was another restriction that we could choose from, but I had already started using tape. So I thought, hey, I'm just gonna go with it. I started taping off different sections with the intention of continuing with doing landscapes, but doing like puzzle piece landscapes in place of my original idea, where it was gonna be a like blended collage of landscapes where it looked like one singular picture. So I pretty much just Googled different landscapes and started taping off sections and then going for it. So this first one is, you know those pictures where you look up into the trees and you can see like the light shining through and patches of the sky, but you can like see the tops of the trees from the bottom? I tried doing that. I've never done it before, but I think it turned out pretty cool. The next one is a like darker, sleepier type forest, where I started experimenting a little bit with a more surrealist color, whatever. It was like a weird turquoise, dark turquoise or something color tone with like gray trees. I ended up having to fix that one and make it slightly bigger because the puzzle pieces that I created weren't very good sizing. So I removed the tape, and then after letting it dry, I did another section where I had to go over it with gesso, just because it was way darker than I wanted for my next landscape, which really sucks considering I spent like 10 minutes going over it with dark blue like the day before. But I decided I wanted to do another landscape, another like sunrise, whatever, just to kind of go with the whole there's two trees and there was already a sunset or a rise. I honestly don't know what it was. But then it kind of turned into a beach, possibly the desert with like a sky. I honestly don't know. I went around, peeled that off, let it dry, and then I did my next little section. I tried reusing the same tape too, so that was interesting, just my big jumbles of tape. But this is where the puzzle pieces ended up getting a little weird. I also decided that bottom part kind of looked like a volcano, so I decided to kind of just go with it, but the colors I used were way too dark. If I do it again, I would have done a lighter brown and then a dark brown as the detailing. Instead, I had a dark brown with black for details. And then the top part is a road, but a road like close up. So you can see the lines like right in front of you instead of like away from you or whatever. Went through and tried to make that like turquoise, whatever color again. I ended up lightening up the background a little bit before going in again with those grayish trees. Trying to add a little bit of depth by having smaller trees in the background and then the bigger trees in the foreground. Although it ended up covering up a lot of the blue in the back. Then I just did some final touch-ups and that is it. So I hope you enjoyed, and make sure you check out my vlogs, which I post every Monday and Friday. And of course, my next Artsy Tuesday, which is just an art studio or an art video. Bye!